So the other week we talked about some conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And one that you touched on was flat Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that I find flat Earth funny.
Yeah.
I just feel like, why? So I figured maybe we could talk about it a little bit today.
Okay.
First of all, what do you believe?
I don't believe that the Earth is flat by any means.
You believe that the Earth is round.
Yes.
Okay. And now, one of the claims made by the flat earthers is that we know less now, we knew more before. So they claim like old information is somehow more correct.
Mm-hmm.
But how long do you think we've known that the Earth is round?
For thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to say this guy's name wrong.
Yeah.
He's a Greek mathematician, but it's Eratosthenes.
Oh, yeah. I think that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
About 2,500 years ago, he figured out how to measure the Earth because they knew then it was round.
Yeah.
But they didn't know how big it was.
Right.
I mean, when we look at like old maps and stuff, you know, just the known world, it doesn't, I mean, 2,500 years ago, it doesn't show like North America or South America or Antarctica or any of that. So do you know how they did it?
I don't. How did this happen?
Excuse me. So the way they did it was two like prominent larger cities at the time were Alexandria and a city called Syene. I believe I'm saying it right. Syene. They were very close to what they thought was the equator, and actually they are pretty close to the equator. So, and I've heard the story two different ways, and I'm not sure which way it is, but the point is the same. So, one way I've heard the story is that there was an obelisk in both of these cities, and another way is that I've heard that there's a well in both of these cities. So let's just talk about the well.
Okay.
So if you live there all the time and you use that well all the time, you'll look down the well and sometimes you won't be able to see the bottom because there'll be a shadow. And sometimes if the sun is high in the sky, you may see very little shadow. And then on certain days of the year, the sun will be perfectly right over top of it. And at that perfect time, you'll see no shadow. You'll be able to see straight down. So they knew how far away these two cities were from each other. So he coordinated with a friend in in the other city and decided that on a certain day, when his friend looked down the well, there was no shadow. And these were different days at different times. So what they decided to do was the well in Alexandria, at least this is the way I've heard it, one of the ways, they looked down the well at the exact time when there was no shadow. And they knew that exact time. And then his friend in the other city looked down the well and then recorded how much shadow there was. Now, I've also heard this told with obelisks, you know, basically like what the Washington Memorial is, you know?
Yeah.
So the deal is if you're able to measure the shadow on the other one and you know there's no shadow here, you can figure out curvature. And he did this with such accuracy that he guessed that the Earth was somewhere between 24,270 miles to 25,050 miles in diameter. Nowadays, we've gone to space. We have technology. We happen to know that the Earth is 24,901 miles around at the equator.
Okay.
Which means he was only off by like anywhere from like 0.8% to maybe 2%. And they did this back in the day
Yeah.
by measuring shadows.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Which it doesn't seem like that complicated of a way to figure this out, you know? Like it didn't take space lasers and satellites and computers. We just did some math.
Yeah.
So if it's that simple to figure out, why do people, do you think the earth is flat?
Well, I'm going to go with one of the most simplest reasons is because it is difficult to imagine in your head how large the earth is. And it's even more difficult to kind of picture it as a sphere and to zoom in all the way until you can see a flat surface. Like a lot of people will take something like a tennis ball and they look at it and they're like, there is no flat surface on this thing. This is round, you know. So there's no way that the earth could be this shape.
Right.
You know, and since we're on flat ground, that's, you know.
But if you took a microscope to that tennis ball.
But they're not thinking that. They're thinking, look, there's no way that something that round can have a flat surface. So that's one of the most simplest reasons, I believe.